Hello, everyone. My name is Anna Weissenberg, and thank you for joining our webinar, Data Security Breakdown, Blind Spots, Breaches, and Missed Signals, presented by both Safetica and Palo Alto Networks, and hosted by SecurityBuzz. A few housekeeping items before we kick off. Number one, feel free to utilize our Ask a Question feature to submit your questions at any time during the presentations. We will collect and address them during each Q&A session after each speaker presents. And if we don't get to your question live, never fear, someone from the corresponding team will get back to you personally. Additionally, not one, but two lucky live attendees will win a $100 Amazon e-gift card. And the winners will be announced live at the end of this webinar, so be sure to stick around. Plus, you can always find fresh content related to today's webinar topic in the related content section of your webinar console. So, joining us today are two fantastic speakers. And up first, we have John Paste, security engineer at Safetica, and then Wilbert Collins, systems engineer at Palo Alto Networks. So, let's get this webinar kicked off. And John, over to you.
Hello and welcome to the webinar, or at least to the first part of the webinar. This is John Paste. I am a security engineer here at Safetica, and today we're going to be going over a number of things, but really kind of the main topic or the main idea here is data no longer lives in one place. We've got cloud sprawl, SaaS adoption, remote work, and it's all shattered kind of the original perimeter, if you will, creating a lot of blind spots, and that leaves a lot of vulnerability points for attackers to exploit. Legacy controls weren't really built for today's decentralized environment, and we need to do something about that. And it's not just something that you do a one-time quick fix and you solve it. It is something that you have to keep working on and dealing with on a day-to-day basis to ensure that you're not getting breached, you're not leaking data, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the idea of what we're going to be talking about today. Some light topics, I know, great. But before we get into the topics and before we kind of get going, I just want to give a huge shout out to SecurityBuzz. Thank you folks so much for organizing this webinar, and also thank you for having us. So I suppose with that out of the way, let's get going and we'll do a quick intro as to who is Safetica. Safetica is a global leader in intelligent data security. But what does that mean? So, Safetica is a data loss prevention solution, historically at least, and that was our bread and butter for quite a while. We've been on the market for around 15 years or so, and again, historically, it was more so of a pure DLP play. Although throughout the years, and again, with speaking with all of our clients and partners, we have learned that there are some other gaps that need to be filled as well, which is why about maybe 5 years ago or so, we started bringing in more information on kind of the insider risk monitoring side of things to help organizations gain that understanding in their environment, because DLP and insider risk, they do very much go hand in hand and help complement each other to give you a broader picture into what's going on inside your organization. And with the combination of those two things, we do like to call ourselves an intelligent data security platform. And as you can see on this map here, all of the dark blue areas are going to be where we are deployed. So we've got clients all across the globe. We're operating in 120 plus countries, covering 1 million plus devices, and we also have about 550 business partners, again, all across the world, helping organizations to secure their sensitive data, reduce insider risks, and ensure regulatory compliance. So now we got that out of the way, let's talk about the modern workspace. Or rather, the modern workplace. Anyways, so about the modern workplace. Naturally, it is more dynamic than it ever has been. It's been changing more than it ever has been, and it's quite a lot different from how things were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and of course, the longer you go back, the more that it's different. But really, what we see when we speak with folks is they're still trying to kind of wrap their heads around or really grasp kind of how things have changed in terms of historically, everybody used to be working from the office, whether you had one large central office or many smaller offices spread around. Still, the individuals, the employees themselves, they were on-prem. Also, the machines that you were utilizing for work also were on-prem. Maybe you had desktops, maybe you had laptops, but still, they were more often than not utilized in the office. And then also the data itself was on-prem. Sure, about 5 years ago and even 10 years ago, folks were starting to move their data up into the cloud, but still there are a lot of folks that have their file servers or even some other variations of storage, could be data centers or whatever it might be, still hosting data themselves to ensure that they have complete control of it. But, a lot of that has changed to data in the cloud, data in SaaS applications, remote employees here and there, traveling employees over there. And then you'll have a small group of those on-site employees. But the modern workplace is more scattered than it used to be, which makes it harder to control. You don't have everybody who is, again, operating in the office on those company machines, and where those company machines are going to be most likely connected to the company network. You got nice and secure. If you are on the company network, you can have access to all the data that you want. Also, if you're going to be maybe printing things or whatever it might be, again, that's all within the company environment, all within the company perimeter. Everything is nice and easy, but that's not really how it is nowadays anymore, which adds a lot of complexity. Also adds a lot of potential points for attack as well, particularly for remote folks. If you are, out and about working at a coffee shop or whatever it might be. People can attack, of course, the networks there. They could target you specifically to try to get some data or whatever it might be. Many things, of course, can happen outside of kind of that secure company environment, which is why we need solutions to kind of help for that. But we see this more and more. And when we're talking with folks, again, they're still trying to kind of adjust to this new way of working. And naturally, we, as well as many others, are here to assist them with that. And along with the modern workplace, naturally, modern businesses are facing modern challenges. We see, again, when speaking with our clientele or speaking with partners, that there are a lot of legacy deployments still out there in the world, and also a lot of partial implementations. Could be of those legacy solutions or could be other ones as well. But that is quite a large risk if you are going to be, utilizing or running some, kind of older solutions that may not be so up to date or up to speed as some others. And also those partial implementations that can really hurt the business, because maybe it is just, it's been implemented that way for a checkbox or whatever it might be. But still, that is going to leave you up and open to certain vulnerabilities. And sure, it will check that box, but are you really protecting yourselves? Are you really protecting your users? Do you really have the control and the visibility into everything that you need to have? Probably not. And also with these, again, historical solutions and, partial implementations or, whatever it may be, generally also relying on some, older ways of doing things, which again may not be the most relevant nowadays, and again leaving you open to certain again vulnerabilities. One really important thing to think about as well is threat actors are innovating faster and faster and faster every day. There's no downtime for these folks. There's somebody's coming up with some new way to exploit this, that, or the other somewhere. It just depends, I guess, how interesting you are to them to, let's say, hack into or whatever it might be. But still, there's folks out there all day, every day, innovating in the space of again cyber crimes and things along those lines. And we need to be, again, up to speed as much as possible to ensure that, the organization's safe, the users are safe, and data is safe. We find this is actually one of the more concerning things for folks is they realize that there's potentially a target on them for either whether it's data or whatever it might be, but more often than not it's gonna be data, because data is so valuable nowadays. But this is why, again, you need to kind of keep an eye on these things, understand where are our current vulnerabilities and what can we do to address these, if anything. Of course, sometimes there may not be anything that can be done at this moment, but it's always good to understand where those weak spots are and then have a plan in terms of how to patch those up. And really lastly here, just at least for this slide, data is no longer purely within the company network. On that prior slide, I was talking a decent amount about kind of how everything used to be somewhat centralized in either your file servers, data center, mainframe, whatever it might be. Data was relatively centralized. Nowadays, that's not as much the case. You may still have a few file servers here and there. You'll have your data up in SharePoint, or maybe it's just somewhere else in Azure or AWS or Google Workspace, or it's also spread across all your different SaaS applications, HubSpot, Salesforce, so on and so forth. And when it is spread in that sense, it is going to be more so spread with the users. It is out on, the edge now, where the users are accessing, this, that, and the other data from those machines. They may be pulling the data down onto their machines to work on it and then put it back up. Or, who knows what's going on necessarily, unless you have the visibility into that on the endpoints. And again, a lot of organizations are looking for ways to address this. It's not as simple as it once was. And when talking about how things are not as simple as they once were, that also kind of goes hand in hand with this slide here, is why standalone DLP can't go the distance, or why it also just doesn't really hold up nowadays. You do get a lot of false positives when you are using, some sort of either standard DLP, historical DLP, whatever it might be. But if you're purely just, again, utilizing things for keywords and regexes and stuff like that, you'll get somewhere, of course. But you're gonna still introduce a lot of false positives if you're thinking about, could be bank account numbers or credit card numbers or even social security numbers, depending on how these regular expressions are formatted. It's gonna be, depending on what it is, it could be also an invoice number, whatever, but could be 4 numbers, could be 5 numbers, could be 10 numbers, whatever string of those things. If you have a lot of different number sets within your organization, that is going to create a lot of noise, because there can be a lot of things that can look like a credit card number, depending of course on the regular expression format, or a lot of things that are going to look similar to a social security number. Again, if you don't have the proper classifications kind of around that social security number. And this just leads to a lot of alert fatigue, a lot of also just fatigue in general with the IT teams trying to decipher what is going on, why are there so many alerts for this, that, and the other. And really it just kind of drives everybody a little insane at the end of the day, and you eventually stop paying attention to those alerts. Additionally, if you've got policies, excuse me, also tied to these classifications, the end users are most likely going to be getting a crazy amount of also pop-ups or whatever it might be on their machine saying, hey, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you shouldn't be doing this. And that is also going to rapidly decrease their productivity, because they're just either going to try to stop working with these subsets of data because it just doesn't work, and whatever it might be, or it'll just completely limit them from doing whatever they're trying to do at all. And they'll consistently have to keep talking to IT or whoever it might be to get these things resolved so they can actually do their job. And generally the scalability of this doesn't work really well, because normally they are going to be somewhat on and off policies, and again, using some relatively rigid frameworks. And that might work for a team or something like that, but it's really not meant to scale throughout a large organization. And this is the problem with just, again, a DLP solution. And we can see we got this quote on the bottom of this slide as well, saying that by 2027, 70% of CISOs will be consolidating DLP and insider risk management. Now, I know you've probably heard me mention insider risk management or insider risk monitoring a few times so far here within this webinar. And, well, the reason I am talking about that is you do need to kind of have both of these things in organizations nowadays. But a lot of folks don't necessarily understand the difference between DLP and IRM. But what we can see here, at least, DLP is going to be primarily preventing data exfiltration. That's what it's there for. Data loss prevention, data leak prevention, whatever you want to call it. That is what it's doing focusing on the content and the context around whatever information this might be. More often than not, it's going to be content, which is very important. Some will also do context. And when I'm speaking about content and context, content would be whatever is within a document, and the context would be if it's a, I don't know, a TXT file or something like that, right? And then, the answers we can get from a DLP solution is, what happened. So we'll see the logs, we'll see whatever happened, we'll see that somebody was trying to share a document full of socials, and okay, great. Maybe it did its job, maybe it didn't, whatever, but still, we've got the log data, we can see those actions. Cool. But there's still some unanswered questions with that. And that's where IRM can also come in, or insider risk monitoring, insider risk management. Again, whatever you want to call it, still more or less the same thing. IRM is going to be detecting risky behavior. It is focusing more so on intent and behavior of the actions opposed to the content and context, but it's probably going to be utilizing some of that. And this will help us answer, why did certain things happen? Maybe we can see a pattern of actions from an individual, which will then help us to understand why they were doing this, that, or the other. And really what we have seen and kind of what we've done is, over the years, we kind of evolved from a DLP solution, also merged that with a IRM, or insider risk monitoring and management solution, to have a unified data security platform, because that unification provides the full visibility and proactive protection in an environment. And talking about full protection in an environment, that kind of leads us into, well, the Safetica solution. We are a kind of single pane of glass for your data security in your organization. One solution, one price, and we are covering all these different areas here. As we can see, kind of the bold areas on the left and the right, we are primarily a data loss prevention solution and a insider risk management solution. But we are also many other things. We also do have a CASB aspect to our product, hooking into Microsoft 365 and some other areas as well, for enhanced security, as well as a DSPM looking for data at rest within organizations, applications, and web filters to either allow or restrict folks from using certain apps and websites on those company machines. The email security that I kind of briefly talked on, also dealing with external device management, and as well as the UABA side of things, or kind of the more so, let's say, user and entity behavioral analytics, but it's easier just to say, again, kind of a combo of that and insider risk monitoring and management. But that is, excuse me, the beauty behind Safetica is it is just kind of your one-stop shop for all these things. Normally, with a lot of other vendors, a lot of other providers, you're going to most likely have either different modules you're going to have to add on into a single product or platform or whatever it might be, to have all of this functionality, or it is going to be separate platforms, separate products that you have to learn and understand and maintain, and so on and so forth, which is a bit of a nightmare sometimes. But again, with having something like this, it is just a singular solution. It also just is a singular price, no modules or anything like that, and just a single pane of glass for security teams. You don't need to learn a million different products to have this complete visibility and security in your organization. And we kind of have, let's say, 4 pillars of intelligent data security here at Safetica. First and foremost, of course, is data protection and the visibility of that sensitive data. We need to understand where our data is, what that data is, who is using it, and where is it going. We also need to be looking into the insider risk and user behavior side of things. Again, who's doing what with our stuff. When that comes to either just working with data, could be working with certain applications in the company, could be working on with certain websites. And again, having a handle on that, having some visibility on these things can be immensely helpful and powerful for organizations. Compliance and data discovery, of course, is also a very important thing for most companies nowadays. There's going to be something that you're going to have to adhere to, whether it could be something as overarching in the EU like GDPR, or something similar like CCPA in California, or some other more localized things in the US, kind of state by state, or it could be HIPAA or many other things. So having a solution to help you meet compliance, again, is a very helpful thing to have. And last but not least, cloud security, because data is everywhere. It's all over the place, and most likely it's going to be in the cloud now. So we need to be able to secure the data that is up there and to ensure that it's, firstly not being pulled down and being used in, some sort of nefarious way, but to ensure that also folks aren't sending it out from the cloud in ways that they shouldn't. And just wanted to give a quick overview here. I know I don't have so much time left, but still just wanted to give a quick overview of the Safetica solution. On the top left here, we've got the data pane going over different data related incidents. Relatively, nice and simple, easy to understand information on that page there for people opening things, moving things, renaming things, creating, deleting, so on and so forth. We've got information on all of those events there. Can also look into email traffic within our solution. Again, as kind of mentioned on the previous slide, a lot of these things can be separate solutions. So having this all in one place, again, is very helpful. Then we also have our main dashboard on the bottom right side of the page here, where it goes over kind of all the alerts and all the data related incidents and application usage and AI usage and all that good stuff. Again, in a nice and simple and easy to understand format. And then on the bottom left there, we have our insights, which is basically just the alerting. And we are utilizing AI heavily within our solution to ensure that only the correct events are being alerted on. We do have AI built in for the DLP side of things as well as for the IRM side of things. And again, we'll be able to notice any abnormal or odd events that are occurring on the machines, even if we don't have any classifications or policies set for that. And we'll be able to bubble up those insights to you so that you can dive further and really understand what is going on in your environment. And really, I know I kind of flew through those last slides here, but realized I was coming up a bit on time. So if you do want to learn more, we do have a product tour available on our website, safetica.com up there. Also, of course, have the link right there as well below. And also, if this was interesting and if you want to hear more about what we're up to, you can follow Safetica on LinkedIn. And also, here's the link, last one there, for booking a demo with us, or you can also use this QR code here as well. And I think we have a few questions. I just need to navigate to that. Give me a sec. All right, so here we are. Okay, so there's a few questions, a few that are similar as well, so I'll kind of put those into one. I already have an existing DLP solution, although the two different questions were a email DLP and a network DLP. Why would I need something like your product? Well, an email DLP and a network DLP definitely have a purpose and a standalone purpose, but having something like this Safetica platform, that is going to help consolidate things because the platform that we are offering here, it does have email DLP. It is also endpoint DLP. It is network to a degree in terms of uploading data off of machines, like we are scanning for the data that is going out and about into the world. So again, you can have, of course, a network DLP if you wish, or if it comes with something else, that's fine. We can work alongside those things. Although if you are having like some existing email DLP, we would overlap quite a lot with that. And it's probably best to choose one or the other in that instance. So yeah, and again, with our platform, with our offering, we are a endpoint DLP primarily, but we are covering email and all the other areas that we had seen on that prior slide. I'll just go back to that real quick. Yeah, so basically all these other areas are also the things that we are covering as well. So I'll just go back quickly to the slide here. Next question is, already have a data classification tool. Can you integrate with, a existing data classification product? Yes, we can. If that product is using metadata tags, then we do have the ability to integrate those existing metadata tags into our product so that we have visibility of what is what in terms of what file is what, and then are able to apply policies to those existing classifications. Actually, the next question is somewhat similar. I'm asking about Microsoft 365. We currently have Microsoft 365. Why would we need to go with your solution, and would you be able to integrate with 365? Again, with Microsoft 365, and let's say more specifically when it comes to E3, E5 licenses, which are probably the most common, we can work side by side with those products, or we can also replace, to a degree, the DLP functionality, the purview side of things. So yes, we can integrate with 365. We connect to the 365 tenant, and then we do have specific integrations with Outlook, Exchange, and SharePoint. And also, when we do integrate, if there's existing security labels and things like this being used, we can pull those labels into our product automatically once we are connected. I know I am running up on time, so I will wrap this up. Again, thank you folks so much for hopping on today. Thanks for listening to our spiel. And yeah, I just want to wish everybody a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.
Amazing. Thank you so much, John. That was very informative and we really appreciate it. So, like I said, up next, we have Wilbert Collins, systems engineer at Palo Alto Networks. Wilbert, over to you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wilbur Collins, and I'm here to present on our Cortex XDR solution. To get us started, let's discuss the endpoint security challenges of today. Number one, there are way too many threats, and I would almost say not enough resources, people, or time to, combat these threats. So just to kind of, discuss a few of these challenges that they are facing, it's the analyst may be spending hours, hours on hours to prevent maybe one attack, or maybe there's thousands and thousands of alerts. By the time they finish going through all these different alerts, that may take a matter of days, weeks, months just to get there. And a adversary may have already came in and added 10 more, 10 to 1,000 more attacks or alerts that may come in, and the job is never finished, and where you're looking at so many different alerts that may either be high level or low level, may be critical, but you would never know because you're getting very low context within this. And then a lot of analysts may get burnt out, but that is what we're trying to prevent. And not only that is also when it comes down to cost and complexity. So if you have multiple tools trying to solve multiple problems and it's taking more time, and then you have to, hire more people, and the team may not even be that big either, so now the complexity may, complexity may be at an all-time high. That that all adds up sooner than later. So what the goal is, what we're trying to do for today, for the more modern endpoint, to come against these challenges, we want to prevent advanced threats in real time. So using AI to fight AI, that is the name of the game these days. Detect with unmatched accuracy. We want to make sure we're reducing as much false positives as possible, and to cut the response time to minutes. So no more waiting months, hours, days. Let's cut this down to minutes so that anything that may be low level or may not be so much of a threat in the grand scheme of things, that we can cut that down to a matter of minutes, and so you and your team can focus on things that really need your attention. Also improve operational efficiency, so no more multiple siloed tools. Now we can have that condensed down to one platform, giving us one screen, and just have it taken care of all in one place. So to get a little bit more into our solution, this is Cortex XDR. This is the world's most effective endpoint security, proven 6 years of MITRE attack framework results. And what this encompasses for XDR, XDR is just not an endpoint solution. It is the endpoint, network, cloud, and identity solution. It can cover you from all tracks, and it can have a single agent that migrates with many of the OSs, Mac, Linux, Windows, and any more that you may have, at least what we have at the moment. And the approach that we take is a prevention first approach. No more being on the reactive, you want to be on the proactive, because that is what it's going to take to get ahead of these advanced threats. Also get rich context and advanced AI. We utilize AI to speed up um, the detection and investigation, as well as the remediation piece of this, as well as having a single agent to be able to unify and make a great story out of every different area that may come about. So whether that's from endpoint to identity, cloud, network, you're going to be able to see that all within this one console and have it tell the same story, whether that attack is from one place, from another, it all connects. Getting into the next portion is what I've just kind of mentioned in the last slide, is that being able to see this is what we like to call a case. And within this case, it's going to piece together all the different alerts. And if it's one main attack that it set off about 100 different alerts, we're going to make sense of all that within this case alone. And with every one of these cases is going to be given a smart score. And when I get into the demo a little bit later, this smart score is going to be able to tell if this has a a critical asset, has it seen it before, what triggered the alert, and what did the machine learning find from all the different multi, you know, multi machine learning languages that it went through to find this information. As well as this, this is going to prevent sophisticated attacks in real time and prevent pre-execution to reduce the risk of a breach, as well as being able to prevent many advanced attacks, as well as prevent things from going along, but also showing the full root cause analysis of this attack itself, which we will see in the demo a little bit later. So to get into the next portion here is when we're talking about the rich contents and advanced AI, what's going to happen is that we utilize machine learning to build rich context and high quality detections and investigation, then detect the evasive attacks with industry low false positives using thousands of machine learning models, as well as reduce triage volume by 98%. So when I talked about going from hours of combing through logs and alerts, now we can cut that down to a matter of minutes so that anything low level or maybe time consuming that doesn't pose as much as of a risk. Now we can cut that down to a matter of minutes, and so that you guys can go focus on more high level alerts, as well as focus on what is matters so that the AI smart scoring that I talked about here, this is where that's speaking about that, as well as remediate in minutes with integration automation and 24/7 MDR. So I will talk a little bit about our MDR solution if you want to manage it yourselves or you want to delegate that task to another team that is in partnership with you for uh, monitoring your endpoint solution. So to get into the next portion, XDR is just not, it's just not one thing. It is part of a bigger scheme. So XDR is the foundation of what we like to call XIM, which utilizes our next generation SIM, SOAR, handle the automation piece, exposure management, being able, but this is the foundation. This is where we're going to have all these different sensors on endpoint, network, cloud, identity, and have that be the foundation for everything else here, as well as it all connects to the same, what we like to call our data lake. So you're able to see all those logs within the same place and make sense of it and make a story about it and provide much more context than what you're getting now. Next, I want to talk about is our Unit 42 managed services. So, like I mentioned earlier, whether you want to manage this yourself or manage it or hand it off and delegate it to our Unit 42 team. And what this is going to provide is 24/7 managed detection and response. So, it's going to be looking at things like incident monitoring, investigation and response, and alert management, proactive threat hunting. So, actively looking for threats that may be trying to target your system, as well as prevent you from any new threats that may be out there, paired up with our Unit 40 team, research and development team within there. And then high fidelity threat intelligence, as well as next security posture optimization. So looking at host inventory, cyber hygiene assessment, data and health checks, as well as SOC engineering. So data engineering, detection engineering, automation engineering. You can get all this within the Unit 42 managed services and pair that up with your XDR, your XDR solution. And last but not least, before we move into the demo portion, I just wanted to kind of give just some context into how we compare in the industry. So Gartner, we're a three-time leader in 2025, Magic Conduit when it comes down to endpoint protection platform, as well as MITRE ATT&CK. We have 100% technique level detection in MITRE. We were at 100%. And when it comes down to we are the only market leader to achieve 99% in both threat prevention and response in AVC EPR. So enough of just, discussing, to give a high level view of this. Let's actually get into the dashboard and get into the console of what it looks like. And if everybody can see my screen, that is great. So here, when you first log into your Cortex XDR management console, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see in the case, it's going to show you all your main cases. So like I mentioned, the cases up here, the case is just a matter of pulling together and stringing together many different issues slash alerts and making sense of it all here. So as you can see, within the last 30 days, by default, it's going to show the 30 days. And you're going to see that we have 17 critical, 7 high, 23 medium, 59 low. You can see what the case have been assigned to, who the case has been assigned to, how many are open, how many open cases, how many unresolved, and you can see the trend here, as well as the bottom left, you'll see the scores in the top cases, the top 10 cases. This is customizable, but by default, it's going to show the top 10, as well as the top 10 hosts. So if you have certain assets or clients or your identity connected to this, you can have your identity provider connected and see users, hosts, just see that all within this same area here. And then even here, you can still see a little bit more of the open cases over time, say how long they've been open, and when you need to close them. So we look a little bit more into the cases. So we're going to look at a case here specifically, and we're going to dive into. So here, we're going to look at this one right here specifically. So this one right here, I want to hover over the smart score that I discussed during our presentation. This is going to let you know, and hey, this score was set by smart score, which is utilizing our machine learning. It's going to give a little bit of context. For example, one or more auto-generated IOC alerts were detected, as well as this score is going to let you know what the scores were based off of. So level of suspicion, alert combination of files. So you can read all that here and get a little bit more context if you're coming in maybe the next day or seeing what was handled by machine learning and whatnot. If you see down here, you can see this many issues have been included inside this case, which issues slash alerts was put together in what we like to call stitching, where we're taking multiple different issue sources and we're taking those logs and putting them together if they all relate to the same exact scenario that has happened. So here you can see that this is our XDR agent, our XDR behavioral indication of compromises may have came from the firewall XDR analytics. You can see that all within here and to see how many different issues branched off from those specific products, as well as the artifacts. So what we utilize is our sandbox solution, what we like to call Wi-Fi, to be able to get the verdict. So whether it's deemed malware or benign or whatever it may be. One thing I do want to mention is that anytime malware is detected, this automatically does get deemed as critical and deemed as critical because it ranges from low to critical as far as the cases. In the assets, here you can see whether that's certain critical assets that may have been deemed or affected during this attack within this case. So here you can actually come here, see maybe, hey, I need to isolate this. I need to isolate this endpoint. It's affected or it's a critical asset from here, as well as the automation piece, which I will show another case soon that shows how our playbooks are being utilized and showing if it's been remediated or it needs your attention, it's going to show up here. One thing I want to mention here is the execute is showing the matter attack, the attack framework and how every one of these issues align to the matter attack framework and where it aligns here. So we had 18 issues that align with OS credential dumping and whatnot. As far as the MDR piece, I do want to go into the view MDR thread here. And this is if you have a managed service and managing your XDR console here, it's going to give an idea of what was taking place. So you do have access to this and understand, hey, what has been done, any notes that MDR may have left, understand what they are doing within your environment and how they are handling these cases. So you can see that within here. Next important piece I want to discuss a little bit more is if we're talking about the issues. So I know we saw one area where where we saw one view, but I'm going to show more of a view if you prefer the more of the log, the log view within here. I'm going to show that here you can see all the different views. You get a breadth of information within here. So you can get the name, severity, the detection method, whatever category you may want, the description. So because this was generated by machine learning, it's going to give an idea of, hey, suspicious executable detected. This is the machine learning at work, the process action type, just kind of give you an overview of what's happening. This can be filtered down and you can add or subtract certain fields from, from this view. Next piece I want to talk about is executions. So whenever I talked about the root cause analysis. So if we look a little bit more and kind of lean in, we see that this one specific execution that may have not even deemed as a threat, or may have seen, okay, this one execution was ran, but that one execution triggered 14 different issues slash alerts. And it has led to this whole causality, it has led to the whole causality chain here, and have led to all this other taking to all the other of these threats to take place. So if we look here specifically on the side, we see that issue 1 out of 14, and you can get a little bit more context into what is taking place here. So you can get the timestamp, the source, the hash number, source, hash number, as well as forensics highlight, forensics information. So you can see the type of scripts that may have been ran through PowerShell, processes that may have taken place, files, file hashes. You can all that information, get all that information in here about this. Especially if it's for investigation purposes, forensics purposes, and just understanding, what may need to be taking place. And in some instances, if you have this connected with your firewall, you can actually make note of a firewall that may have make note with the firewall to see if a rule allowed this specific execution or a specific file to go through, to have it automated to be able to um, work go push from here using our XOR tool to you know make that rule go into make that rule go into a remediation piece. In better words, basically come here, you see the firewall icon, see that what rule allowed it, have the XOR say, hey, next time block that execution if you see it again, to ensure that it doesn't happen again. All right. Next piece I wanted to show you was the automation piece. And so I'm going to go to this task here, which is a little bit different, but this one right here is what I want to mention, is that the automation piece for playbooks, we don't want, what we do allow is yes, we utilize our machine learning and our AI to make sense of these cases and remediation, but some cases and alerts may require an analyst to, take a look at, or may need eyes on it, because it may affect a critical asset, or it may affect the network. So as you can see with this one, it's saying, hey, playbook waiting analyst. As well as the completed playbook, you can see here that these playbooks have been completed. And if we want to get a little bit more context into how that looks like, what that looks like in the flow of that playbook, give it 1 second. This is loading. You can get the full idea of what all took place during this playbook, the investigation piece. It lets you know causality processes, the remediation. If it lets you know if everything that needs to know. You don't have to fully understand everything within here, but it does give you an idea of what took place, as well as the war room, anything that may have been taking place within here. So if multiple people are working in here and they need to run scripts or just leave notes, as well as the dbot. What our dbot is, that is actually the machine learning or the AI bot that's working in here, and say, letting you know what scripts were ran, everything in there, as well as getting an overview of what's taking place, or the description of what took place within this playbook itself. And that is that portion. The next part I want to show lastly is the marketplace. So why I wanted to show the marketplace was because I wanted to get into our integrations piece, because that is where the playbooks come from. We have many out of the box playbooks, but if you have certain integrations with something like AWS, let's actually take a look at that. It'll let dependencies, version history, as well as context. So it can show you the integrations piece with AWS, and specifically, it shows you all these different commands that if you connected it to a playbook, it's a matter of downloading this and installing this on your console itself. If you connected this to the playbook, then you can provide that, and you can perform certain tasks on here. So if you deal with S3 buckets, have it logging, do such as logging, website gets, whatever you can go through all these different commands and have it perform tasks on your behalf without you even having to touch it. And then as well as certain cases may happen, say certain cases may take place, and it can utilize these commands if you have a playbook set in play. So last portion I just really wanted to highlight and show you is that within our inventory. So here you can get an overview of your different endpoints that you have within here, whether that's the import, whether that's the endpoint type or endpoint status, whether it's connected or disconnected, operating systems that they're connected to. You can filter this down if you only want to see your Windows, your Windows operating systems, whether that's your Mac, or if you need to see what versions or what needs to be upgraded, what has been falling behind on the agent versions. And you're able to install the agents by if you have an MDM that you utilize, you're able to mass deploy this agent out. It's very simple out of the box. I like to say that it is a deny all until you scale it back. In my personal experience, when I deploy this agent on my own systems, I utilize it. I utilize it, and if I need to add anything, maybe such as USB drives, prevent USB drives, or it's pretty much a deny all. It pretty much denies anything that seems malicious or just seems out of the ordinary. It will block it. So it's a pretty powerful tool outside itself. It's just a matter of if you want to apply these policies, this is where you would go to create policies, any profiles you need to have, any, device exceptions, device management. You can do that all within this console here. But yeah, other than that, that is pretty much all that I had to show. Like I said, this is a very high level overview of this product, high level overview of this product. And, thank you so much. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to me or reach out to an account team, and they will gladly help get you started on your Quintus XDR journey today. Thank you so much.
All right, friends, it is about that time to close out this webinar. That said, we have one last item to take care of before we wrap, and that is selecting our two lucky gift card winners. So without further ado, our first winner is James K. And winner number two is Emily F. Congratulations to both of you. And you'll be hearing from me, Anna, and only me within the next 24 hours for information on claiming your $100 Amazon gift card, no strings attached. And with that, on behalf of Safetica, Palo Alto Networks, and Security Buzz, we thank everyone for tuning into our webinar today. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Take care.